Hello and welcome back to TandL Talks, the podcast for, about, and featuring fabulous educators. I'm your host, Nancy, and today we're heading into the world of elementary music, one of the most joyful and essential parts of our student school experience. I'm joined by two of our amazing music teachers, Hailey Wharton and Ashley Neufeld, who are not only bringing music to life for hundreds of students each week, but they're also serving on our elementary music curriculum adoption team. In this episode, you'll hear them share stories about the teachers who inspired them, the moments in their classroom that keep them energized, and why they stepped up to be part of shaping the future of music education in our district. We also dive into equity, representation, access to instruments, and what it feels like to collaborate as a team of specialists who rarely get to be in the same room together. So settle in, TandLers. This is a conversation full of heart, honesty, and a whole lot of appreciation for the role that music plays in our students' lives. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to TandL Talks. I am here today with two of our amazing elementary music teachers who are also serving on the curriculum adoption team. Tell us who you are, please.
Hi, I'm Hailey Wharton. I teach at Carson and Desi Evans Elementary, and I'm in my second year teaching currently.
Hi, I'm Ashley Neufeld. I'm at Edgerton this year, and I'm teaching my fourth year.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. You've been doing adoption work all day long, and your brains are probably kind of tired, so I appreciate you sitting for an interview.
Yeah.
I always like to start by just asking people to tell me about a teacher who had an impact on you.
The teacher that made one of the biggest impacts on me was my choir teacher in high school, Mr. Stenson. He was just so passionate about music and about everything, and he loved to geek out about the little things in music, and he kind of instilled that in all of his students, including me. So I really enjoyed doing that in my teaching as well.
Great.
One of my favorite teachers was my senior year band teacher. I had a teacher who was teaching since my middle school and it carried all the way until high school, and then he retired. And he was a great teacher, but I really liked my senior one when we had a new teacher. He focused a lot on the music theory behind things and just getting better. We often didn't play really complex music at first, which we were used to, but then we got to learn the why behind things, and we're like, oh, that's how that works. And so that's what really drove me to become a teacher. I wasn't originally going to be a music teacher, but after being with him, I was like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do.
Nice. I love when people share these stories because I think there's just that universal experience that teachers really do change lives, right? The work that we do every day, the work that other people did with us when we were students, we can do great things. We do great things every day. So thank you both for sharing about your teachers.
Yeah.
So what do you love most about teaching elementary music?
Ooh. I love when students make me laugh. I love when we have a small moment and it just brings some joy into our lives, because I feel like in school, especially in elementary school, there's so much growth and there's a lot of stress that can come around that. And when students have a moment where they can enjoy a laugh or a smile with their teacher, I feel like that's so powerful. So that's something I really enjoy.
Thank you.
I think regardless of the age I teach in elementary, I always enjoy it, and my students always enjoy it, when we make music and we realize that we just made music. They're like, wait, we understood, we recognize that song, we did that. And so I think that's something that's super cool when you realize you're doing that. And even for my little kids, they may not necessarily, they hit something and they go, I made music. But as a teacher, when you have them play something and then you actually understand the song or hear the song, I think it's super cool feeling.
So when you think about the skills and experiences that students should leave elementary music with, what feels the most essential? What do you want your kids to leave with?
I really want them to have like a music appreciation. Music is everywhere in life. It's in video games, it's at the store, it's in the car. A lot of students like making music whenever we give them a lot of creative options. And so it's just a great creative outlet, and it really just expands your brain.
I agree with that. I really do think that students need to come away from music with appreciation and enjoyment of what they're doing. Maybe it was just one little thing that they enjoyed, and that's what makes all the difference. One moment.
And I know a lot of students, I have a lot of students will ask, well, I'm not doing this in college, so why do I have to do music? And I'm like, I'm not teaching them to be opera singers or the best DJ in the world. We really want them just to enjoy the music that they have around them. Like, we speak language, like we read and talk, and language, I think, is that same thing. If you don't understand it, it's kind of hard to appreciate it as much.
Yeah. I have a little private voice studio on the side. I have some high schoolers, and one of my students is in college, and she's still singing. And she was like, you inspired me to keep singing.
Gosh.
It was such an awesome moment to hear that, oh, what we did in high school inspired you to keep going. So every moment that we have with a student is really impactful.
Yes. So, like I said, you are both serving on the district curriculum adoption team for our elementary music curriculum. Why did you want to be involved on this committee, and why does this work matter to you?
I think that's always the biggest question, like, why does music matter? And I think it's made such a big impact in like our own lives here, and I think it's important that we don't want music just to kind of get pushed away. And so that's why I really stepped up, like, no, I want to know what's going on in our world. I don't want to be a bystander just to go. I mean, our colleagues, I know we're all busy too. I think all of us would like to know or have a say in what's going on, but I think they trust us well enough to know that we want to make the best decision for ourselves as well, because we don't want subpar. We want what's the best for our teachers and our students.
Yeah, and I really feel like going into this experience, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. All I knew was I'm a new teacher who might have to help others make better decisions in the future. And so I wanted to help my fellow teachers and fellow students kind of have a solid foundation upon which to make their music. And as a second year teacher, I feel like not a lot of us newer teachers go into big teams like this. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like it was important to have my voice be heard.
Absolutely. And we were talking about that before we started interviewing. Just one thing that I love about this music team and many of our leadership teams is that variety of voices at the table. If we have a whole bunch of veteran teachers, that gives us a limited view. But if we have teachers who have all different levels of experience, including second-year teachers, I think that just brings those perspectives out. And the conversations that your team has been having are just so deep and powerful, right? And I love how there's equity of voice on your team.
I'm really enjoying hearing all the different perspectives, especially as a newer teacher, to see what everybody else is really prioritizing in what they want in a curriculum.
You know, as you say that too, it makes me think of the work that you're doing while we've got a very specific purpose, which is to look at curriculum and what curriculum best meets the needs of kids and teachers. There's also a really deep professional learning piece, right? You're learning, I bet, a lot about your practice, about music instruction, just because of the work that you're doing in that setting.
Yeah.
And there's a reason there's many different pedagogies for music.
Right.
Because there's different ways of teaching it, there's different ways of experiencing it, and no way is necessarily inherently right. We just want what's best, what fits best for us, and sometimes that matches with our students, and sometimes it doesn't match their vibe, but we're just going to do our best with what we have.
It also depends on what fits well for us, like you said, and so each teacher is going to be using whatever curriculums we're using in different ways, because we all have our specializations, we all have our niches, we're all specific individuals bringing ourselves to the table in addition to just making music and teaching music.
Yeah, I heard from somebody once that they call it bringing your sparkle. And I think as we district-wide are having more curriculum maps and pacing guides and that kind of district-wide perspective, we always need to bring our individual sparkle to the table too, right?
I love that.
I like your sticker on your laptop says sparkle and shine, I've noticed.
Everything should have glitter on it. That's why.
I know the custodians don't like that.
No.
Sparkly stickers are okay.
So you have both been piloting Music Play Online. That is the curriculum that you're looking at deeply as a team right now. What has stood out to you most about how your students have engaged with the materials?
Well, with the curriculum that we are using and have used for the last couple years, Quaver, I'm seeing some overlap in the types of activities. But with Music Play Online, I am finding some engagement, especially with my second graders and third graders. They are really enjoying and engaged in what we're doing. They're really loving making music. They are enjoying doing all the stuff.
I find there's deeper knowledge available, and it's like a bigger, what was the word we used earlier? It's like an index where there's a lot more resources that you can use on Music Play. So that's a great resource to have, especially when you're trying to look something up. And that's another thing I think we like right now. It's so much easier to search for things.
Yes, the navigation's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier when you're just like, what is that song name? And you like type part of it in and you can still get it, whereas Quaver, you type part of it in and it's like, that doesn't exist. I'm like, I know I played it yesterday. Like, what's it called? So that's been really nice to have.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of things in a lot of different places on Music Play Online. Like, I can find something new every day and find something new that inspires me, and I can clip it and grab it for later.
I also love the representation that we see. As much as I loved Quaver just kind of being silly, he was just the front of it, whereas the students were not all a white man.
Right.
And so it's kind of hard to connect sometimes. But with Music Play, you see a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different teachers demonstrating the instruments or playing with the lessons.
Something that is important to know about Music Play Online is that it is by teachers for teachers. So we have a lot of teacher representation, like Ashley said, and you're seeing teachers who have tried and true taught these games, these songs, these activities, and it's working in the videos that they show us or their lesson outlines. It's really cool to see stuff that has worked with other teachers and can work in the future.
Mm-hmm. As you've been working through this adoption process, are there themes that emerged that you feel represent not just individual teacher preference, but things that are needed system-wide?
Something that I know that our district is really needing, especially with the pandemic that happened a couple years ago, is having an online option for music education. And Quaver and Music Play Online both offer that option for us. If for some reason we did have to go back to an online fully virtual modality of teaching, we would have a resource to share with our students, both with Quaver and Music Play.
And that's just where the world's going right now. And something I think the district needs that we don't necessarily have right now is consistency with instruments in all our classrooms.
Right.
That's the biggest issue. I've been in probably at least 5 or 6 schools in the past 4 years, if not more. And every school I'm at has different resources. And so every year I'm having to kind of change my direction because I go, well, I don't have these instruments here anymore, so I can't teach that unit. And so that's something that's been kind of not fun, but we've had to adapt. And it's also hard when all these curriculums often rely on, okay, have these instruments available. And I go, well, I don't have that, so I have to make something up on the fly.
I know that this year my school will be getting the traveling guitar set, which is cool. So I'll be teaching guitar to my 5th and 6th graders this year. But that does mean that some other schools in our district aren't getting that guitar usage, and that means that there's an inequity that needs to be solved here.
So what has surprised you as you've been serving on this district adoption team?
I
think the surprise was honestly just learning about the costs of these curriculums.
Yes.
I didn't realize how expensive Quaver was, and that it took them so long to be like, hey, this is a little expensive. Maybe you need to do something else. And I was like, oh, why have we been doing the most expensive option if that was taking a huge toll on everything?
Yeah. I know that Quaver was our primary source like 10, 15 years ago. That was the music curriculum to have. And as that has become more common knowledge, the price keeps increasing. And it's quite astounding how much more expensive Quaver is to our other options that we've been exploring.
I feel like that is something that curriculum companies are really looking at deeply, is the stuff that we're visually putting in front of kids. Is it supporting their learning of the content, or is it interfering or distracting, right? I feel like that is something that curriculum companies are really looking at deeply. I know, like with CKLA curriculum, they're very toned down materials, and it's for a reason, because we don't want you to pay attention to all the curly cues and the cute, glitter, whatever.
Bright colors.
Right. We want you to pay attention to the content and to the instruction. So music teachers don't always talk about data in the same way as core content teachers do. How do you use student learning evidence to guide your teaching or reflect on curriculum? And how does Music Play Online support that?
Well, one thing that I know I'm currently doing right now is our 5th grade CBPA, which is our rhythm, writing, and dynamics unit, and I'm using that as my personal student growth goal, and I'm using the data from the pre-assessment to kind of assess where my students are and how I'm going to go forward with getting them to be at 3s and 4s in the future.
I think for a lot of music in general, we're not used to paper pencil for grades, especially not in elementary level. You might get that in upper levels in college, of course. But I do a lot of assessment via I'm watching the students, I'm hearing the students. It's very obvious if a student plays the wrong notes, plays out of time. You can look at their fingers to see if they're playing the right notes. It is kind of hard to justify sometimes to certain teachers. Like, well, where's this documentation? And I'm like, well, I heard it. Like, I trained for so long to be able to hear those notes and know what's wrong and know what's right.
Mm-hmm. I also think that Music Play Online supports assessments well with their assessment tracking charts. There's a lot of materials for the teacher in which to help them set up and execute and gather data for future use.
When I think about your caseload, right, I think of how many grades you give out. And while it's different than a classroom teacher, they have a limited number of students and a lot of areas. You have the exact opposite. You have lots and lots of students with a tighter scope. That's a really different way to have to look at data, right? The other thing that's nice, I think, for you is that potentially a lot of times our music teachers stay in the same school year after year. So then you get to see, that hasn't happened with you yet.
And for newer teachers, it's not a common thing, unfortunately. We move around a lot, and that's not often our choice.
And especially, I know that I'm an itinerant. I don't know about you, Ashley.
I was for 3 years. This is my first year I'm at one school, finally.
Okay. I'm so happy for you. But as an itinerant, I'm moving between schools, and sometimes those schools change.
Yep.
So there is kind of an unknown factor in being an itinerant teacher.
Right. Well, hopefully you'll be able to stay where you're at for a while.
We'll see.
We'll see. And hopefully you'll get there. Because I think when you get there, when you can be at the same school for 2 or 3 years and you have your same kids over time, that's really it's sweet. It's really cool to be able to know your kids just on a deeper level, right?
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
There was a set of 2 years, actually, I think it was my second and third year. I was at Woodland. I was also at another school. My third year, I was also at Woodland, but also at another school. So I was still itinerant, like moving around.
Right.
But I kind of had that feeling of like, some of those students knew me finally. And I was like, okay, maybe I can make a relationship with this school.
What does equitable access to music education look like to you, and where do you see our system making progress or needing to grow?
Well, I think in terms of having equity and having equitable practices, it's super important that every student has access to music, which is why I'm so excited that this year Carson Elementary does have our support center for the first time. And that invites some of our students with special needs or with other needs that they can come into the classroom in smaller groups with one-on-one paras and have dedicated time where they get the musical growth that they need, as opposed to being in a room of 30 plus kids and almost not being seen and not having the attention they need.
I think having the curriculum, like the online curriculum, I think is very equitable, because that way we have, I think our school has a device for every single child, and that way they can have access to our curriculum online, whether that's at home or it's at school. I know it's a little different depending on the ages, because some of them can't take their laptops home.
Right.
But I think with their upcoming curriculum adoption, one's going to be a little different, where they will be able to do it at home regardless if they are at a younger grade and they can't bring their laptop home. A lot of the times our music schedules are moved around so the homeroom teachers can have planning time together, whereas us music teachers, we never have that time together. We have maybe one PLC a month, and that's not necessarily even to talk about what we're going to teach. It's just talking about things that are going well, things that might need help. It's really hard for us to plan things together because
we very seldom get to see each other and make music or exchange ideas together as a district of music teachers. And I think that's something that I would love to see happen in our district.
Which again makes me think about the value of serving on this committee, because you get a little bit of that collaboration, right?
For sure.
With other music teachers.
I love seeing my coworkers. Yes. I don't get to see them often enough, and it makes me so sad that I don't.
I feel like there's such a nice camaraderie that we have with our whole curriculum team, and they're all just so kind and vivacious and funny, and I feel like we have a good time while we're getting that work done.
Right.
And we can go, oh, that happens in your classroom too? Okay, sweet. That's not just me.
Yeah, especially since we're all piloting music play online. It's been interesting to hear different experiences, or someone tries something that, oh, I tried that too. Here's what happened. Oh, that's what the button that you press to get that thing. Oh, I need to switch to alternate. Okay, like there's commonalities we're seeing, and so I don't feel like I'm very much alone in this process.
Right. So if there's a teacher out there, a music teacher or any teacher really, who is considering serving on a district committee or adoption team, but maybe they're hesitant, maybe they think they haven't been teaching long enough, or they're just not sure, what advice would you give them?
Just honestly go for it. Like, we're both newer teachers, and we wanted to know what's going on, and if you want to, I feel like, make a difference, you want to be on that team.
Yeah. Something I was nervous about when thinking about joining was like, oh, is it okay for me to take that many days off of school? Like, is that a thing that people do? So, and I feel like it really very much was worth it, because I'm making that difference and I'm in the room where things are happening. I'm making sure that I am helping the future generation of music teachers in the district.
So if you want to actually know what's going to happen, what might change, or be a part of that, then I would say join in, because this is like the first time that we've actually had a whole group meeting about it and talked about it for several days, and I think that's meaningful, especially since we're the ones teaching it.
Yeah, honestly, it makes all the difference when people decide to step up and be a leader in their communities. And I feel like if you are someone who has enjoyed that in the past or is considering it, I recommend you go for it because it might surprise you.
Well, thank you both for being here today. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your perspective. And thanks for being here in the TandL Clubhouse.
Yeah,
Yay.
thanks for having us.
Thank you so
It was
much.
great.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of TandL Talks. And a huge thank you to Hailey and Ashley for sharing their time, their perspectives, and their passion for music education. I'm always inspired when I listen to educators talk about their craft, especially when they highlight the small but powerful moments that make this work really meaningful. From building students' confidence to ensuring that every child has access to high-quality music experiences, these teachers remind us why curriculum adoption work matters and why having diverse voices at the table makes the whole system stronger. If you enjoyed today's episode, and how could you not, share it with a colleague, or better yet, invite someone on your team to step into leadership, join a committee, or lend their voice to shaping district-wide work. And if you like hearing stories about teaching and learning from real practicing educators, go right now. Go right now to TandL Talks on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or iHeartRadio, and just give us a follow. It's totally free. Not only will you get notified every time there's a new episode, you'll also help other educators find us. The more TandLers, the better, I always say. Thanks for listening, TandLers. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep shining your sparkle.